What's up? It's time to unbox the next one. Let's finally open version 1 of the Origins collection He-Man. So if you remember, we already unboxed the first one of these, but the first one that we unboxed happened to be version 2 of this collection for the He-Man figure. Now, from what I understand, there was a version 1 in Wave 1 that was released, and that was this. And then there was a version 2 that was released, I think around Wave 5. And that He-Man, evidently, got some hate. And not just that, sorry, this He-Man got some hate. And not just this He-Man, but the first Wave Skeletor, which I'm actually very interested in, also got some hate. One way or another, I'm happy to have him. I'm happy to put him on my shelf, and we're going to go over the impressions that I have with this figure. So the first thing I'm going to do is open it, and then I'm going to talk about the packaging and my first impressions. We're going to talk about the mini comic that comes with him as well. Okay, so the comic we got this time is called Beast Barrage, and I don't know this for sure, but I don't think that these are... No, in fact, I would almost guaranteedly tell you that these are not the original books. These are reprints, something new. Rather, they're just new mini comics. Not reprints. That also would be incorrect. These are very much new prints, new comics that are coming with the figures. I was originally under the impression that maybe these were the original mini-comics. I don't believe that to be the case. I think that each wave gets a book, and I think that these are just simply mini-comics, very much in the same idea of what they did all the way back then, but not the original mini-comics. Now, there is a book that you can get that does have me quite interested, that sells the original mini comics, and it's just a hardback book that you can get that comes with every single one of them. And the next thing is that I'm definitely going to cut this artwork off and keep it, because the artwork is absolutely phenomenal. It's just like all the other times that I've brought it up. The artwork on the back here is substantially great. And what I've been doing with this artwork is when I get one of these single figures, I cut this top area of the artwork off because I really, really, really like it. I just think it's fantastic fantasy art, and I've been keeping it so I kind of have like a stack of cards of the amazing fantasy art that's coming out with these things. The packaging, just like last time, is perfect. However, this time I may want to bring something up. The figure seems to have his sword and whatnot wrapped very tight. Like, very, very tight. I don't know if that's going to be an actual issue until I get in here and get it, but here he is. I'm going to cut him out, and then we're going to talk about a couple of the features here and there that I know about and my impressions with him in general. So let me take some time with the figure and really collect my thoughts, and then I'll come back and I'll talk about it. Okay, so a couple of things here. One, I believe that this He-Man, which is the version 1, is actually slightly different skin tone than this He-Man. So that's going to make it that if you bought this He-Man and you wanted to switch their heads, you would have a problem. The skin tone wouldn't quite match up right. This one is a little bit darker, but you would have another problem altogether. This head doesn't actually fit this He-Man. So if you got this He-Man for this head to swap to this, it's not going to happen. I believe that you can get away with it with the Battle Armor He-Man, but that's it. And I'm not 100% sure on that one. I know that this one, the necks are just a little bit different. Just enough different that that would cause a problem. Now, these weapons are put in way, 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 way too tight. They're wrapped in there so tight that it actually damaged the axe. Let me show you here. the axe is actually busted. It's like bent. What ended up happening, as you can see right there, it's got that huge bend in it. Let me turn it this way. You can see it right there. You see it? That's a problem. I don't like that at all. This was packed way too tight. It's a real problem because my intent for this He-Man was for him to hold the axe. And now I'm going to have to fix the axe before I can even do that. Now, one thing that people didn't like was this. This sword is built differently than the other sword. It's only half of a power sword because it's supposed to hit back to the idea that when this was done, the original idea was that they would fight over their two halves of the power sword. One of them would eventually get the whole sword. That person would be able to open Castle Grayskull. That was the original idea, where there were barbarians and wizards and sorcery and battle and techno-battle, technology and guns and things of that nature that would fight, and the final result was somebody was going to be able to create the full power sword. I do like this gimmick. I like it a lot. But I can understand why some people would have a problem with it, because displaying him is not like displaying this one. That's a power sword, and it's an entire power sword, and that He-Man has it. This one has half a power sword, which my intent was to put in his backpack thing. His sheath. There. I was happy with that idea until my axe was busted. Now I'm going to have to try to fix the axe. That is a legit problem. I really don't like that that happened. But the biggest problem that people had with this figure, the biggest problem that people had was the head. People prefer the old He-Man sculpt head. This is more to the original design than what we're looking at over here. This He-Man almost seems like it's modeling after the cartoon a little bit. And you know what? I guess I say don't hate me, but I actually like the pretty He-Man. I like that his hair actually comes down and covers part of his face. I like that it's bigger and it looks almost it looks like it flows a little more. And I like that it seems to curve around his face instead of kind of be matted to the side of his head. The other He-Man looks like he's been in more combat, like he's been sweating, like his hair is mounted to his head. And if that's what you were looking for, if that's what you wanted, then I understand that. I very much understand that this isn't the He-Man for you. You don't want this one, you want this one. And if you're a stickler for what you grew up with, you might well want that one. But this one, I did go out of my way to get, because believe it or not, I like it. Yes, I actually like the way that the Series 1, the version 1 He-Man looks. I do like that design. Now keep in mind, I'm coming at this from a very different angle. I got into this property very recently, and I got into it just like a child would. I saw toys. The toys were cool. They sold the line to me, which means that when I look at it, I'm looking at different aesthetics that I see in a toy level. I think the toys sell the line. And I think that having different heads, different sculpts, different designs, and different aspects for play matter. I'm not a stickler on the idea that my He-Man has to look like the original figure. That's great for you. And if it works for you, that's wonderful. This is your He-Man. This guy looks an awful lot like the original He-Man, and I can very blatantly understand why this is the one you would want. But I like this design. I like this head sculpt. I think it's done very well. I appreciate it. I honestly do. I like that the hair comes down across the shoulders. I like that it seems like it frames his body a little bit more. With his hair being bigger and poofier almost, and more of a sway, I like that it goes down across his back. So it's across the bottom of the neck a little bit. I will admit that it does alter his movement a little bit. He doesn't move his head as easily as the other He-Man. He still looks down, he still looks somewhat up, he still does this, his head still pivots back and forth for the most part, but he's not perfect. His hair does somewhat get in the way, I'll admit it. But I do like this head sculpt. For me, this is just another solid He-Man figure. It really is, and I'm happy to have him on my shelf. I don't hate this sculpt. I don't like that they packed his axe the way they did, because now I have a problem. I have to fix this. Or I have to swap it out with the other He-Man that has the power sword, and this guy will be displayed with his axe. They're still primarily the same weapon. I guess that'll be fine, but it's an inconvenience I shouldn't have had to have dealt with in the first place. And we have now added that He-Man to the shelf. Just one more thing, completely unboxed, but there's a lot more to get to later on.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.